What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps that we took to take this Klaviyo account from $13,488 in email revenue to $59,867 in email revenue in just 60 days. So here is a screenshot of before we started working with them. So we've been working with this client for a while. And you can see whenever we first got a hold of this account, their attributed revenue was at 10%. So 10% of their total revenue came from email marketing, and it was pretty evenly split between campaigns and flows. So they already did have some existing flows that were doing pretty well, at least for what was there. And they were sending campaigns on a semi-regular basis. So they were kind of inconsistent at times, but we'll get to that a little bit later here. And then 60 days later, this is what their email revenue was at. So we can see that attributed revenue went up 374%. So it's just under 33% of total revenue. And it's a pretty big jump in the actual number, the value of the revenue. And then you can see that there was a pretty big shift here in the performance looking at campaigns versus flows. So in the previous 2 months prior to this, it was pretty evenly split. Now flows were generating a lot more revenue than campaigns. And that's because we did a lot of work up front on the flows, like we typically do whenever we're starting with an account if they don't really have their flows dialed in. So here's what we did. And this right here is going to be a great example of showing how you don't have to be super advanced to get great results with email marketing. You really just need to understand the fundamentals, and you need to execute the fundamentals at a high level. Now, yes, it's great to know all of the advanced stuff and to be able to add that on over time. But again, you don't have to do that to get good results. That's like the icing on the cake that you can add in. So if you have a brand or if you're managing email marketing for different clients, just know that just sticking with some of the fundamental stuff is going to take you 80 to 90% of the way. So what we did here is we updated some of their core flows that they already had. We expanded their flows, and then we sent segmented campaigns. So it sounds pretty basic. So let me jump into this. So first we started with updating their core flow. So what we did is we updated the content in their existing welcome series, abandoned checkout, and post-purchase flows. And then we also created a new opt-in form so we could increase the opt-in conversion rate to get more people going into that welcome series and more people on the list, but also more people converting into that first purchase. And you can see here the difference in revenue when you're looking at the flows specifically. From 2 months prior is at 5,551, and it jumped up to 44,438. And that was just by updating some of these core flows. And we also did some other work, and I'll talk about that. So we also added more flows, but up to that point in this 60-day period that I've been showing all the screenshots of, no one had a chance to even go into these additional flows that we had created yet. So this right here on the right, you can see this is 2 months after we had implemented the new flows. So what we did here is we added browse abandonment, abandoned cart, the customer win back, and back in stock flows, at least during this time period. Of course, we've added more flows since then. And then we also added more emails to their existing flows, the ones we had already worked on. So this is a screenshot from 2 months later, once people started to go into all those extra flows, and you can see that the flow revenue jumped up even more to over $62,000 per month. And then what we started doing is we started sending segmented campaigns, because what they were doing prior to working with us is what a lot of businesses are doing. And that's when they send out a campaign, they just send it out to everyone on your list. And the thinking there is that, hey, I've spent all this time and money to build up this list. I want to get the most value that I can from it. Why wouldn't I send out every email to everyone on the list? And I can get why people think that. The problem is that, for one, if you are consistently sending out to your whole list and you're getting really low engagement like this is going to really destroy your email deliverability over time. The other thing is, not everyone on your list is the same type of person. So the more you can create different segments and then curate the content for those different groups, the more those emails are going to feel more unique and personal to those people. And you don't even have to go crazy with the personalization. You can really even just start with like engagement-based segments just to get going, just to make sure that you are maintaining good engagement, and that's going to show Gmail and Yahoo and the other inboxes that you are a trustworthy sender, and it's more likely for your emails to end up in the inbox. So what we did here is we started testing different segments. We created a consistent campaign schedule, and we diversified the campaign content. So I mentioned earlier about the campaign schedule. So one thing with them is that sometimes they would be sending once a week, sometimes they would be sending once a month, and it was very inconsistent for their list. And what we have found over time is that a lot of, similar to creating YouTube videos, for example, is that whenever you stick to a consistent schedule, people seem to respond really well to that. And we've noticed over time that with all of the clients we've worked with, that over time, as you stick to a consistent schedule, it doesn't matter as much what you say in the subject line. Like once you get them used to your content and they've got a feel for your brand and what you're all about, and you build that trust with them, they're going to open, unless they're just totally uninterested or they're just done, getting your emails, because there's always going to be some of those people on the list. But they're going to keep opening, and they kind of know what to expect, right? So a lot of people, no matter what you say in the subject line, they're going to open no matter what. Again, that's not everyone, but there's going to be a good chunk of the list that gets to that point. And then another point here about the campaign content. So it wasn't like they actually had a pretty good variety of campaign content that they were sending out, but with this particular brand, they had so much amazing content that they were putting out in general for their business. So they have some really cool things that they've created on their website. They have some really in-depth YouTube videos that were pretty useful for their customers. And so with all this different content that they have that we could leverage, it gave us a big variety of things that we could send people to keep them interested, keep them engaged, and also just provide real value, because some of those things were like pretty interesting tutorials that were pretty hands-on and more detailed than other competitors in their space are putting out. And so that gave us a lot to work with. So it made it very easy to stick to a pretty diversified subject matter for their campaigns. And again, you can see the difference here in the open rates and click rates and of course revenue from before, whenever they were managing the emails, to when we were managing their emails. Now again, so this right here, I don't want people to think like this is how it's going to be every time. This is what we have found, and I'll talk about this in the next slide, is that with this particular audience, they're just way more engaged than we originally anticipated, just because this is what we were seeing before. And so this was whenever we initially started sending. Now we've started sending to bigger segments to where we're not getting, like, we don't want to get this high of an open rate, because that tells us we're being too conservative with the sending. So I'll talk about that here in a second. But again, these are obviously, really fun numbers to see whenever you first start working with a client. So here are some things we learned, some potential lessons that you can take away from this. So the first thing is that this brand they sell products in a hobby niche. So the people that we are marketing to, this is a passion thing for them. So what we found is that not only did we not need to be salesy to generate sales, a lot of times these people were turned off by the salesy content. And really, the more that we lean into the passion, so the more that we're just sharing things with them, it could be resources to help them learn more about improving their skills in the hobby, or like learning more about different products that they could buy to improve what they were doing with the hobby, or just really doing it in a way where taking the attitude of like, this is just this fun hobby we all enjoy, and trying to help them get the most out of it, and really trying to come up with angles that build up the lifestyle and build up the whole the attitude behind the lifestyle that these people aspire to in this particular hobby. Those are the things that they responded to the best, and they still respond to the best. So really, it was just in some ways, I guess that might seem a little more challenging, but I actually think that makes it a lot easier, because there's just so many different angles you can take. And what we found is just trying to make sure that the emails are always fun for them, and keeping it that simple. And we don't even have to directly link to specific products all the time. And what happens is, just by consistently showing up with things that are of interest to them in this hobby, they just naturally want to buy more products, right? So because it's a passion niche, the interest is already there, We just have to keep showing up and remind them about our particular brand that we're working with and find new ways to increase that relationship that they have with that brand. And they just naturally want to buy the product. So that's awesome. Another thing here is consistency is better than perfection. So what we found is, again, trying to craft the perfect campaign and sending campaigns less frequently didn't do near as much as just sticking with a consistent campaign schedule, which was a big problem that they had before working with us, was just being very inconsistent. Sometimes they would be sending a campaign once a week for a while. They'd go on for a couple months doing that. Then they might send it, once a month for a little while. Sometimes they might go 6 to 8 weeks in between sending campaigns. And so the results were just all over the board with their campaigns. And once we just stuck to a consistent schedule, that we just saw the consistency of the results and of the revenue that they were getting continue to improve over time. And the last thing here, so I hinted at this in the previous slide. So we figured out pretty quickly that there was room for not only higher frequency of sending, meaning that there was a lot more room to send more emails because the engagement was so high. There was room for us to send to much wider segments than we normally would, just because this particular audience is very engaged. Because again, it's a passion niche. So if you sell products that are related to a hobby or a passion, I think that's something that gives you a pretty big advantage, because people are already naturally very interested and hungry for more of that kind of content about that thing, where at least in our experience with some of these different types of brands, is that the people are way more engaged than they are with the customers of other products, where yes, of course, people love to buy products, people love shopping online, but it doesn't mean they're super passionate about everything that they buy. And so with this, we realized pretty quickly that the engagement was so high, and yes, we could just be happy seeing these really high engagement numbers, or we could increase the frequency, increase the size of the segments we're sending to, and generate even more revenue and still maintain really good engagement metrics. Now, if you want to double your email revenue, I have created a free playbook that shows you everything that you need to do here. So if you go to Ecom Email Playbook, what I've got, all you got to do is sign up right here, is a free 5-day email course, and you can see how these are basically 5 simple steps. Going to take you through everything that you need to do to potentially see a 400% boost in email revenue in the next 30 days, increase the profitability of your paid ads so you can scale faster, and achieve a 30 to 50% of your total revenue from email. And down here on this page, again, you can kind of see a quick overview of everything that's going to be included. So we're going to be talking about all of the core flows that you need to have set up, how to get started with email segmentation, how to grow your list so you can get more people on your list, generate more sales, how to fix your email deliverability, or if you don't have any of those issues, avoid ever running into email deliverability issues, and also how to leverage A/B testing to get more people to buy from the emails that you're already sending. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.